trying to make your living figuring out all this classification, although it's helpful for you if you're going to become a student of the planet, really. So again, they have all the characteristics of the previous groups we talked about, the fish and the amphibians, but they also have these other characteristics. They have a waterproof skin, which, remember, the previous species did not necessarily have waterproof skins, although fish, for the most part, do. And it's a skin covered with scales or waterproof covering. They're cold-blooded. Every one of the animals we've talked about to this point is cold-blooded, which means their temperature will adjust to be similar to the temperature in their environment. So let's talk a little bit about an ecology issue there. In cold-blooded organisms, aquatic organisms, they will not hibernate like a mammal might do, a bear or so on. However, they will get very, very slow in their metabolisms as the water cools. They don't consume much food. They don't respire much, so they don't inhale and exhale nearly as much. They don't grow. They don't go through their reproductive cycle. They are very stationary, sedentary, and because of that, they become highly susceptible to becoming victims of predation. And there's a relevance that's very important to me right now. And those of you that have attended any of our ecological aquaculture question and answer sessions know that I have a suspicion, at least, I have not verified this, but that I've had something happen in my pond system, particularly one of my ponds, that I have no specific evidence of, but I have a lot of indirect evidence of, which is predation of my fish population by mink, aquatic mammals, and sometimes called water wolves. And I've never dealt with a mink in my 40-plus years, almost 50 years actually, of really being very serious about aquatic ecology. Boy, it's hard to admit this, but you guys, some of you remember that I have a huge influencer in my life, a mentor named Dr. Carl Hubbs, who took me on as an intern when I was 15 still. I was just for my junior year in high school, and so that's 50 years ago. And I don't recall ever dealing with mink as any kind of a significant aquatic predator. The reason that they really can wreak some havoc, cause some problems this time of the year, is that my fish have gotten very, sedentary, very quiet, and if they are not hiding somewhere where a mink might see them, and my water clarity is also incredibly good, and I've shown some images of that, so that if the fish aren't really hiding in the aquatic vegetation, they are very susceptible to being eaten. And I believe I've had a dramatic negative impact from something of which at least there's some evidence that it could be a mink. And really the evidence is lack of evidence, because mink are really called silent and clean killers. They don't take the fish out of the water. They eat them right in the water. They don't bring scales up onto the up onto the surface or the shoreline. Anyway, that's just a little bit of weaving a story in here related to cold-blooded animals. They have, now back to reptiles. Reptiles have hard-shelled eggs. This is the first group that we've had that's had hard-shelled eggs that are waterproof. And we're starting to see a more advanced kind of an egg. And they have force-chambered hearts. So a lot of them are aquatic, but there's also a lot of freshwater species. So I haven't seen the specific breakdown there. but obviously turtles are aquatic, and there are freshwater. There are both marine and freshwater, as well as terrestrial, non-aquatic. I don't know why we have a picture of a frog here. That's an amphibian. There are aquatic snakes that at least spend some of their lives or most of their lives in the water. Not as important in freshwater as they are in marine systems. However, we've talked about this in the aquatic ecology and ecological aquaculture before. Some of the bigger frogs, like bullfrogs, can actually be a food source for humans. And so they have some ecological agriculture prominence. So we've gone through life cycles so far of all the animals, and we're going to continue that through the vertebrates. We're probably going to go back and talk about invertebrates in a little different section. So again, they start with eggs. Remember, we said the eggs are hard-shelled. They actually break open like you could picture a chicken egg, and the youngs come out of them. They don't metamorphose. They'll look very much as young hatchlings, baby turtles, like an adult does, again, a mammal would typically do in many cases. They spend several years in sort of passive migration. They will oftentimes go out to sea, or in terms of freshwater turtles, they might go out in the middle of a lake and swim around in the limnetic zone.